We also heard from Martin. Hey guys, in episode 689, you talked about basement garages, specifically situation where there's living spaces such as bedrooms above them. Everything you said made complete sense to me, and I fully agree with installing 2 layers of drywall. I don't remember saying installing 2 layers of drywall, but okay. We have a very similar situation. Our garage is next to the basement, but the previous owner added a sunroom above it. After listening to the episode, I went into our garage and noticed that there's no board installed beneath the ceiling joists. You can literally see the wood framing. At least the previous owner added some insulation between the joists. The sunroom is also more like a refrigerator for fruit and vegetables in winter, but that's a separate issue. My question is whether Missouri would allow a garage ceiling without a protective layer, such as a drywall fiberboard installed under the joist. As mentioned, the garage is directly attached to the basement wall, but there's no additional drywall separation. I do hope, however, that the door between the garage and the basement complies with fire code requirements. I'm originally from Germany and work as a carpenter, mostly building prefabricated houses, so I'm comfortable using tools. I'm still getting used to U.S. building codes, and I always thought Germans loved rules. It's fantastic. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about garage ceilings. Randy, is it okay to have an attached garage without some kind of fire barrier on the ceiling? It's not, right?
Right. So this comes into the codes it's actually in table R306, 302.6, dwelling unit garage separation is the name of the title. The very first portion of the table says from the dwelling unit and attics. So they're worried about the connection between that common wall between the house and the garage, and then, of course, the lid or the attic of the garage. And it says not less than 1/2 inch gypsum board or equivalent applied to the garage side. So we're on the ceiling side, so yeah, you're required to have something there.
What's equivalent to drywall?
That is a little bit trickier. I mean, it's a fire-rated assembly, right? That's what they're looking at with the drywall. It's got a specific fire performance that meets what they're looking to have done, the separation between the garage and the home. Will plywood or OSB meet that? Probably not. I mean, you might have a building official that says, yeah, that's fine, go ahead, do that. But if you're looking at the code, you got to have something that tests the same as the drywall. And to my knowledge, OSB and plywood do not meet the same fire ratings.
You could have some fire-rated plywood at $150 a 4x8 sheet.
Right. How would you fix this space, Ian?
Call a drywaller. Move on with your life.
Yeah, I mean, drywall is fantastic because it's cheap and it doesn't burn, or it's very hard to burn, right?
Yeah. I wonder if part of the issue that he brings up with having the sunroom above it and whether or not his municipality really meant to allow that comes down to if that sunroom is actually considered living space. I think depending on your code official's view of whether or not that 3-season room or very large refrigerator for vegetables in winter, as Martin put it, is actually living space, that will then say a lot about whether or not the ceiling of that garage should be drywalled. But it also comes down to what Randy talked about and how they're going to view protecting the house from a potential garage fire, and whether or not they're going to look at that sunroom and say, yes, it's not living space, but it's connected to the living space. So you either have to fire protect the sunroom from the garage or fire protect the house from the sunroom.
There is a portion of the code too that it's different than dwellings without living space above. What it says, portions of the dwelling unit above the garage. So they're saying a dwelling unit. Now, is that actually conditioned space, or will the sunroom meet that definition? I mean, you're dwelling in it. It's a place to go hang out. Maybe you're not sleeping in it, but depending on the interpretation. But that requires a little bit different. You need to use 5/8 type X drywall when you have living space above. So
we've ran into issues where it came down to the code officials' interpretation of the furnishings in the room. And we had a code official tell us, look, you have this on the plans as storage, and they clearly set this room up for their kids to play in. So when I come back, I don't want to see the toy box and the racetrack on the floor. Like, I want to see boxes in it. And then I'm going to say, okay, it's storage. But right now it looks like they're using it as a playroom, which would be dwelling space, which then goes to a different part of the code.
I would tell Martin there's a number of good reasons to put drywall on the ceiling. Fire separation is one important one, of course, but you mentioned that the space is uncomfortable in the wintertime, and it's because it's connected to the outside. And even despite there's insulation in the ceiling joist, without an air barrier, that's doing very little to make the temperature different between the unconditioned garage and the space above. If you put some kind of separation there, you're a lot more likely to make the space livable.
Yep. Well, I was working in my garage shop over the holiday. We had a couple of days where I think we had like 25-mile-an-hour steady winds just hitting the garage doors perfectly at 90 degrees. And as I was working in there, I was like, man, it's really cold in here. The heated floor is not keeping up. And I didn't think anything of it. And then the next day I go out there and I look up, and when I had driven the vehicles out of the garage, the wind had blown the attic hatch of the garage up into the garage attic. So I was losing all the heat through the garage attic hole, but it took me like 2 days to figure that out.
We don't normally do this. We normally take one question per listener, but Martin, having been a former German,
former German,
yeah,
former German carpenter.
We're going to take another one because he came a long way to get our expertise. Let's just say that. He says, additionally, we have a small concrete slab in front of our house. The slab also serves as a ceiling for a section of our basement. Unfortunately, water leaks through the concrete when water pools on top of it. The slab isn't properly sloped, so water tends to stand there. Is there a way to make the slab watertight? Oh boy, this is a good one. Anyone?
So
great question, Mark.
Yeah.
Fantastic question.
So what I'm envisioning is there's a stoop. The basement just comes out. They poured a concrete ceiling basically, which becomes the stoop floor, and that butts up to regular wood framing, the floor framing around the house. So you've got a little gap around there. If the pitch isn't right, everything is going to run into that gap and end up in the basement, right? How do you fix that? Usually, parts of that are covered by siding. That sometimes the siding comes down, if not in contact, very close to the slab. So, can you caulk that? Yeah, maybe, but is it going to last? Can you get everything right? Probably not. Ideally, you pull the slab and pour it, but I know that's probably also going to be difficult because now you got to pull up. If the siding is close, you got to pull that up to get the slab out. The amount of work that thing's going to be reinforced. The amount of work to get that out of there is not going to be fun. And then you could be damaging the walls of the basement, the foundation, trying to remove it as well. So that's a tough one. Can you re-pour? Can you do a leveler? Maybe, but a lot of times that ends up really thin, especially if you pitch it. It could end up really thin at the front edge, and it's not going to stay. It's going to want to pop off. It's tough. It's a tough fix.
I think this is a great opportunity to get some fancy Festool German-made tools out and build a portico over it so that it's covered and out of the elements.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking I would try if these kind of stoops are often lower than the threshold of the door. If you could put sleepers on it and some kind of membrane that is properly flashed to the house, and then put some kind of decking on it on top of sleepers or whatever, I thought that might be a way to kind of skirt the issue.
Yep.
I also thought that, Martin might be familiar with the very high quality air sealing tapes available from Europe. Maybe that at that transition between the stoop and the house wall with something attractive on top of it might be a way to solve this problem easily.
I think this is one of those projects where you have to think to yourself, what type of work do I like to do? And if you like to do concrete work, rip it out and pour a new stoop. If you like to build decks, figure out a way to build a deck over it. If you like to build roofs and goofy things like that, build a portico over it. And you go with what you like to do.
And that brings up a great point, because we all kind of do that, right? We use the methods and materials that we're familiar with, right? Yeah. I see few problems that can't be solved with drywall because I don't mind the work and it's affordable. So maybe you build a whole room over this thing, a little vestibule, a mud room, right? And have a useful breezeway with an airlock. Oh man, I'm brainstorming. Martin, call me up later. We're gonna work through this.
You're gonna spend tens of thousands of dollars fixing this problem anyway. You might as well enjoy it.
Yeah, I was in one of these a few years ago that was actually completely outside the house. I mean, it had a glass block that somebody had cast into the concrete. So when you were in a unit, you had a little bit of daylight that came through that glass block into the basement. This basement was a little room, but the space was actually between the house and the garage. So it was well outside. This glass block was 5 feet from the house. And that one didn't leak, he said. It's crazy how the house built in the 50s, how they got that all right.
That was some old boy in the 50s who just wanted a quiet place to go smoke a cigarette after work where nobody would bother him.
God, I haven't heard about glass block in a long time. Is that still out there? Do you guys ever have that in projects, Ian?
We do. We occasionally will put glass block in a shower wall to give some daylight into a shower. Yeah. If they don't want the standard glass shower door. Yeah. And then all of the farm buildings in my area have glass block windows in them.
Yeah. I've got a couple in my basement. I've done a couple showers. I built when I was doing a lot of tile work. I did a couple of glass block showers. That's another animal. That's a little bit different to do. Yeah. It's not hard. It's just you got to make sure the process is right.
It was part of our standard spec at Habitat Affiliate where I worked in Pittsburgh to replace basement windows, usually hopper windows, right, with glass block windows for security and airtightness. And I had a little experience with it. And the thing I found most challenging and volunteers found challenging is, unlike brick or block, it doesn't absorb any water. So the mortar has to be really stiff, and you have to figure out a way to keep the grout joints consistent while the mortar sets up sufficiently. It's not easy, I would say. Boy, how did we get on? Randy, you're responsible for this.
Glass block, man.
Yeah, blame me.
Ceiling rated glass block, pathway rated.